Harihi Om. Om Gajananam Udaganadisevidham Kavitta Jambho Bhalasara Pakshitham Umasutham Sogha Vinashakaranam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam. Om Gajananam Mahakayam Vignarajam Vinayakam Vishvesham Vishvashaksham Ganeshayam Namo Namaha. Om Shreem Hreem Kleem Ganeshwaraya Brahmaswarupaya Charave Sarvasiddhi Pradeshaya Vigneshaya Namo Namaha. Om Sahanao Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahavedyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ishwararpamastu. Sai Ram, welcome back. Continuing the journey that began 9 weeks ago. And here we are at the junction where we face Isha Upanishad, right? In some places, it is also referred to as Isha Upanishad. It means the same, right? So some books, some writers, for some reason or other, prefer the abbreviated Isha, whereas I like the Isha Vasya. The difference between Isha and Isha Vasya in terms of its expression is Isha means, the supreme. As they say, Ishwaran or Ishwar, And there is also a bhajan, isn't it? Prema Ishwaraha, Ishwar Premha. So love is God, God is love. We say that, Anbe Shivam, right? So all that is telling God is love, God is one, Ishvara. Whereas Isha was Ishva, Isha. Isha Vasya means everything that you see, everything that you experience in terms of what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you touch, what you smell, what you taste, is Isha Vasya. That means everything, in that everything you experience, there is the presence of Isha. Isha Vasyam means one that can never be separated by and from anything. Isha Vasyam. Just like your life is joined with your body, right? The moment the life leaves the body, they become two separate entities. Like that, until that life is there, you are joined, isn't it? Prana and Deham is one. Like that, everything has got Isha in it. So I prefer to use Isha Vasya Upanishad because it makes more sense, right? Whereas Isha is just a word that refers to the Supreme One, Supreme Brahman, or the Supreme God, whatever it is. Remember I said to you, all the Sadguna references to different forms of gods and goddesses are but a mere signpost to a greater reality of non-existence of any forms, formless. So technically, we should use the form to go to the formless and not get stuck with the form. Because the moment I say Isha, people are thinking of Shiva. Whereas Isha means the Supreme Brahman. Right? So, Isha or Isha Vasya Upanishad, goes back, right? It dates pre-Buddhist, sometime 5th, 6th century BCE, I would say. Again, it's part of the Mukhya Upanishad, Muktika Upanishad, which means in the lineage of the significant Upanishads, this is one, right? And the Veda, remember I've always told you every Upanishad is linked to a Veda, and it linked to one of the subdivisions of the Veda, right? So Isha Vasya Upanishad is linked to Yajur-veda, in the Shukla Yajur-veda, right? We looked at the one before, and we said the Krishna Yajur-veda. This one is Shukla Yajur-veda. Krishna means dark, Shukla means bright, right? like the bright face of the moon and the dark face of the moon, Paurnami and Amavasya, like that. But something peculiar and significant about Ishavasya Upanishad, right? It is also known by another term of reference. It's called Vajasaneyi Samhita Upanishad. Vajasaneyi is the name of the rishi who actually wrote Ishavasya Upanishad. So in some places, there's a reference to him where it says Ishavasya Upanishad, also known as Vajasaneyi Samhita Upanishad. Samhita, why Samhita? Because among all the Upanishads, this is the only Upanishad that is related or linked to a Samhita. Right? Remember, I said the Veda, there are 4 Vedas, but each Veda is divided into 4 sections. The Brahmanas, the Aranyakas, the Samhitas, and the Upanishads. The Upanishads are linked to the other 3. Right? And this is the only one. Ishavasya is the only one that links itself to Samhita. It has got nothing to do with Brahmanas or the Aranyakas, from where all the other Upanishads have a linkage, right? To which all the other Upanishads have a linkage. But this is the only Upanishad among all the Upanishads which has got a direct link to a Samhita, right? There are 2 chapters in total, but they are divided into verses, right? So a total 18 verses in this Ishavasya Upanishad. And of course, again, it looks at, the Atman and the self. In fact, if you look at it from a broad perspective, every Upanishad says, you are the Atman. Indeed, there are 4 Vedas. Each Vedas gives you a Mahavakya. Each Mahavakya tells you, you are no different than the Supreme Brahman. Tattvam asi, aham brahmasmi, prajnanam brahma, right? I am Atman Brahma. Everything is telling the same thing. You are no different to that God, that Supreme Brahman, right? So realize this. And this is also what Shankara says in his, Brahma Bhashyas, where he talks about the different Upanishads. The purpose of Ishavasya Upanishad is to enlighten the reader as to what is the true nature of that self. Not yourself, but your true self. So the journey of this life, this Janma that you have given, is to transmigrate from yourself to the true self. Understand? Migrate means not going out, not in its ordinary meaning of the word. Migrate as opposed to, right? Immigrate. You should be going inward, realizing from yourself to your true self, right? What that journey involves is a bit of realization, a bit of discipline, and all of that. Like I said, this is the only Upanishad. This is the only Upanishad that is attached to a Samhita. And Samhitas are from a very old, ancient, it's an ancient layer of Vedic text, specifically known, peculiarly known, exclusively known for its mantras and benedictions, Samhitas. And this Ishavasya Upanishad is directly linked to Samhitas. I'll tell you why, right? All the other Upanishads, they are either related to the Brahmanas or the Aranyakas, right? With the exception of this one. Shankara in his Brahma Bhashya, right, in his commentary on the Upanishads, noted, and he went through this Ishavasya Upanishad, all the mantras and all the hymns of this Isha Upanishad, they are not used in rituals. If you take the Rig-veda, right, if you take the Yajur-veda, and if you take the Atharvana-veda, all the mantras are used in rituals, right? In different forms of yajnas, right? In different forms of agnihotras, right? Like last week when I spoke about Kathopanishad, I said to you, Yama created a new form of yajna, a fire ritual, just to give credence to Nachiketa, right? Similarly, all the mantras that you find in the Rig-veda, Yajur-veda, Atharvana-veda, right? and some from the Samhita, right? Refer to the Samhita significance in terms of the Vedic significance of mantras. Some are used, but all the mantras from the Isha Upanishad is not used in any of the rituals. Why is a question, isn't it? Well, because their purpose is to enlighten the reader as to what is the nature of the self, and not for the focus of doing something in order to get something, as is the purpose or objective or goal of engaging in yajnas, right? For example, the last week or the week before, in all the South Indians all over the country, all over the world would have celebrated something called Skanda Shashti Kavasham, right? So it's a 6-day festival to Lord Subramanya or Lord Muruga, right? And this part also comes in that Devo Mahadev, that story also comes, where it is said that if you follow this fast, right, and he fasts for 6 days in order to fight with Tarakasura, he fasts for 6 days. On the 5th day, his mother Shakti comes and gives him the Shakti veil, right, with which he fights the Asura and kills him. And then, just like mother, when she fought, Mahishasura, she beheaded him and put his head at her feet, right? That is why if you go to some Devi temples, you will see the statue of the Devi is actually standing on the feet. So the statue of the Devi is standing on the head of the bull. So when Kartikeya or Shanmugha or Muruga, Subramanya, when he defeated Tarakasura, right, he made one half into the lance or the veil as you know it, and the other became the cockerel. That's why you see that, these two icons, from iconographic perspective, you see them there. Because at the end of the day, your destruction should only mean one thing: you reaching the feet of God, right? To do that, if you have demons, that very God will come and fight your demons in order to make you pure enough to reach his feet. That is the lesson, right? So it's a very strict fast. And one of the reasons they said, if you listen to this Skanda Shashti, for example, right, there is nothing in this world in terms of illness, depression, any kind of illness, right? Nothing that cannot be negotiated or negated as a result of hearing and reciting this prayer. And it's a very, very rigorous. Rigorous means, from sunrise to sunset, you fast. That means you completely fast, not even a drop of water, if you like. That's the, extent of the fasting that needs to be done, because that's exactly, if you look at the Puranic significance, before Lord Muruga went to fight, this is how he was fasting in the cave. And everybody was fasting because he was fasting. And that's how he became so powerful, that fast. You don't realize, right? Food actually weakens your system. Right? One of these days, if I get a chance, I'll talk to you about the Yoga Sutras, where Patanjali Maharishi talks about, right, the benefits of not eating, or the benefits of eating the right thing that your body should be fed with. Not your everyday breakfast and then, lunch, and then in between you have a, what do they call that thing that between breakfast and lunch? Brunch, brunch, branch, leaf, everything goes into the system. And we complain, this part is not working well, that part is not working well, right? If you put petrol in a diesel car, will it run? If you put diesel in a petrol car, will it run? Or if you don't put diesel, you don't put petrol, you put gas. It's got energy, but it's not going to work, right? So the point is, fasting actually strengthens upavas, actually strengthens the body because it strengthens the mind. As the mind, so the body. Swami always says, that's why he gives so much of emphasis with sports in all his institutions. So much of importance for a healthy body, because a healthy body can house a healthy mind. Right? Anyway, so Shankara says, none of the mantras in Ishavasya has been used or will ever be used in any of the ritualistic affairs, in all the karmakandas, because the true significance of these mantras, these hymns in Ishavasya Upanishad is to help the reader realize his true nature. Like I said, the journey from yourself to your true self. So it, the Yajur-veda has got a lot of, what shall I say, liturgical focus, right? And, historically, despite its characteristic as a liturgic text or liturgical text, it has not served the purpose as a liturgical text, but instead, it is viewed more as a philosophical text, because the philosophy is for you to understand who your true self is, who you are truly, the true innate self that resides within, right, yourself. That is the true nature of the self, and the self equals Atman. Atman equals self. The thing that divides you and the Atman is your external self. So once you remove this external self, you will only see one self, and that is the Atman. So how can I remove, brother? Okay, remove all the impurities from your thoughts. You can do. Remove all the impurities from your speech. You can do. Remove all the impurities from all your actions. You can do. You definitely take off that layer in no time. Then what remains is your true self. That's a bit difficult, brother. Then keep doing. Keep trying until you succeed. And don't worry if you, don't hit it all in this lifetime. You'll get a next one. So that is all karmic balance, right? So karma is not just what you do. Karma, as I've always said, right? What you think, what you say, and what you do, all three. So can you imagine what a great baggage you're carrying, right? Traveling from one country to another country, we access our baggage allowance. And we try and talk to the customs and to all those people on the other side of the airport to say it's only 5 kilos, only 2 kilos, We always want to get away with the excess baggage. Purpose of life is to have no baggage at all. Right? The Isha Upanishad says the same thing, right? It says the word Isha many times. And the concept of Isha, as I explained to you earlier, refers to that supreme self, right? And Isha Vasyam means everything that you see, hear, touch, speak, feel has got Isha in it, because the universe is no different than the Isha, one and the same, right? The famous adage, right? God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. So the Ishavasya Upanishad is only concerned with the spiritual wisdom on Jnana Kanda. Again, we are going back, right? To two types of kandas or pathways. One is called Karma Kanda, ritualistic practices. The other is called Jnana Kanda, right? Intellectual practices, or becoming more wise, right? So one is transitory, the other is permanent. One gives you pleasure or sensual pleasure or pleasures or comforts in life. One denies you that, but gives you the complete liberation from the cycle of birth and death and puts you in the same place as Isha. So you also become part of the Isha Vasyam, right? So actually, the whole thing came from the first line of the Upanishad. The first verse, beautifully it starts, Isha Vasyam idam sarvam yakkinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita Magrida kasya svidhanam Ishavasyam idham sarvam yakkinchit jagatyam jagat. Ishavasyam idham sarvam. Everything that you see has got the quality of Isha. Yakkinchit jagatyam. Last, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I spoke to you about one of the Upanishads, and I said to you, it is basically saying everything in this universe is basically Purusha based. Sahasra Sirisha Purushaha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat. When I said that, it's the same thing. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yakkinchit Jagatyam Jagat. Yena Taktena Punjitha Magrida Kasya Svidhanam. Fantastic. This verse does not distinguish between Isha and the universe. Right? It says the universe is the immanence of the Lord. His form, his body, everything is captured in the form of the universe. The trees that move, the flowers that bloom, the fruits that bear, all of this, the leaves that rustle in the flight of the wind, everything is Isha. Isha Vasyam Idam Jadvam, everything is for Isha. So it is wrong, and the Ishavasya goes on to say, it is wrong for you to think that the universe is separate from the Lord. When you look into the river, or, you're on the boat and you're looking out of the boat, looking into the sea, you see your face, isn't it? Under the water. Or on the water, doesn't matter whichever way you look. But you see your reflection, isn't it? Is that face under the water different from you? No, it's the same. So how can you say that is different from this? This is different from that? No, this and that are one and the same. One that separates that is the thought that says, no, that is not me. You have a face. Nothing is wrong with your face. You look at a mirror, right? The same face looks back at you. But if you crack the mirror into 1,000 shattered pieces, and then you look again, it's not the same face. That face is shattered into 1,000 pieces, just like the mirror. But does that mean the actual reality of your face is also affected by the thought and by the sight of that shattered mirror? This is Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam Yatyagat Kinchijatyagam. Oh, it's just fantastic. Just as your image under the water is no different from you, the universe is no different from him. That one and the same him. Right? And the Ishavasya says, as long as you live in this delusion, you cannot visualize the reality that is immanent within you. You will keep sliding into wrong thoughts. Wrong thoughts will take you into wrong words, and wrong words will take you into wrong deeds. As the thought, so the speech. As the speech, so the act. I'll give you another example, right? If you take a piece of sandalwood, sandalwood, right? Chandan. The original ones come like little wood pieces, about 3-4 inches. And then you rub them against a hard surface or a rough surface. And you put a few drops of water and you see the gandha, the smell, the wonderful fragrance that come out of it. All the things that you get here, which is, is not the original gandha. Original gandha comes in because it's from the tree, right? Sold in little pieces of wood-like, appearance. Anyway, the point I'm trying to say is a piece of sandalwood is meant to produce a wonderful fragrance, right? But if you put that very piece of sandalwood in a jar of water, in a glass of water, right, in a pot of water, it will produce a nasty or a bad smell, such a pungent smell, right? But that same sandalwood, when you take out and you rub against a piece, a rough place, will then give you a beautiful smell. So what's the meaning? The meaning is you are a sandalwood. You are meant to become so fragrant that the smell and the fragrance of the Brahman is no different than the smell and the fragrance of you, right? In reality. But you become, just like you put that that sandalwood in water, you become so engrossed in this water of life that is filled with Maya, where all these little bacteria or viruses like Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Mamada, Matskira, Hamkara all come and attack you, and you're so comfortably living in this balance of gain and pain, and that smell will never come out. Get yourself out of the water, just like a piece of sandal. Take it out of the water and then rub it against. Rubbing against means what? That means that friction, that pressure of cleaning yourself. You know how a diamond is polished? That is the process, that cleansing process. Then the pure, innate perfume from the Atma will emerge. Wonderful. For that, what must I do? This is something called Sarva Karma Sannyasa. Sarva Karma Sannyasa. Withdrawal from all activity or all activities that give you sensual pleasure and worldly pleasure. Bhai, that's difficult. How to do? Then choose your path. It's very clear. Very clear. If you want to go to a destination, you must make that journey to that destination. You cannot want to go to that place, but then make your destination to a journey that will take you to another place. Then you will go to that place. I've always said, choose your journey, Karma Ganda or Jnana Ganda. And I've also told you that, the forces of the universe never give you a deadline. Say, you must in this life come to Jnana Ganda. No. Take as many lives as you want. But come home at the end of the day. Just like, the child leaves the house to go for education, then to go, wherever they want to go, all of that. But the mother will always say, don't forget to come back home one day. This is their message to us. Oh, Jivatma, this is the Parabrahma, Paramatma speaking. Don't forget to come home one day. Until then, revolve in the cycle of birth and death. Until the duality of the doer and the enjoyer exists in your thoughts and your words and your actions, you and I will be separate. When you reach the stage of Sarva Karma Sannyasa, then you and I will start to get closer and closer and closer, and at one point we'll meet. This type of renunciation comes in the Purusharthas as the final one, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Moksha comes at the end. And I've always told you, Dharma and Artha is one category, Kama and Moksha is another category. How to get Moksha? Move away from Kama or desire. Finish. Once you control that. And I spoke about this quite broadly when I was doing Shankara's Bhajagovind, right? So, again, the wonderful thing about Isha Vasya is it in a way, it relates to, right, Ramayana and also the Mahabharata. Because what Krishna said in the Mahabharata is, do your duty, don't focus on the fruits of your actions. And Isha Vasya is saying the same thing, right? The first 6 verses says, work without the desire to get the fruits of your action, right? And what do man want in general, right? What does man want in general? Man meaning both, all forms of life, right? They want a good-looking partner. And nobody will say, it's okay, I will settle for a bad-looking partner. Everybody will want, either the most handsome person in the world or the most beautiful person in the world. So they always want, that, or is one of the wants. They want wealth, prosperity, that's number 2. And number 3, as a result of the first 2, they want only a progeny that they can be proud of. My son is like this. My daughter is like this. My son. You gave yourself the gift. My son, my daughter. Really funny. Because everything you have has been given to you. It's not yours. You are a caretaker. So if you're a parent, your job is to provide the right infrastructure, the most conducive environment. Just like a gardener tends to his garden and ensures that all the plants are rightly watered, rightly fed, and have the right temperature and all of that in order for them to blossom. That is your job as parents. How many of you do it without expectation? How many of you remind your children every day, don't forget all the tough decisions I had to make just to make your life such a wonderful life? Don't forget all the overtime that I did just to give you the education. Duty. Duty is duty. You're not doing your children a favor. It is your duty. So work without the desire of the fruits. You've done your part, right? Leave it. If your children look after you, then you are lucky. If not, there is another plan waiting for you to happen. So renunciation. In order to become a renunciant, right? 3 things must happen according to the Isha Upanishad. Number 1 is service. Continue to serve others without any expectation, right? And from that comes the second one, which I said, work without the desire for the fruits of your action. And when you have 1 and 2 and you continuously do it, this will result in a spiritual wisdom. Jnana. When you have enough jnana, you become a jnani. And you become a jnani when, excuse me, when you consume only detachment. When you consume attachment, ajnana is attracted. When you consume detachment, ajnana is pushed away and jnana is attracted. Right? You have to desire yourself, right? From all the desires. Then no impurity will touch you. No impurity means impurity in thoughts, impurity in words, impurity in actions. Wonderful. Right? In Swami's book, the Upanishad Vahini, he makes a reference to this seed called the Chiliginji seeds. And I will make the same reference, but I use the swan, Hamsa, the vehicle of Saraswati. Aram itihi swati Saraswati. That means one who is the essence of extraction, right? Extraction of what? Extraction of wisdom, right? That is Saraswati. Right? So praying to Saraswati is not for mere circular knowledge or for cultural knowledge. Make me a good dancer, make me a good singer, make me a good artist, make me a good this, make me a good that. No. That is only temporary. You are only a good dancer until you are able to dance. Then another person takes over your status, isn't it? Oh, that person used to be. Now you look at this person, he's the dancer. So these things will come and go, but the permanent thing is your wisdom. Use that wisdom to transcend from one stage to another stage, from that stage to yet another stage. That is Saram itihi swati Saraswati. So Swami says the Chilingiji seeds, when you drop it into muddy water, it has the capacity, the natural capacity to separate dirt from anything else, and then it just deposits itself at the bottom. The seeds also sink to the bottom, but out of sight. What a wonderful creation. If the creation can be like that, you just imagine the wonders of that creator. You think you're so great. Then can you imagine your creator? His greatness has got no bounds, no limitations, no definitions of any sort, right? Deeper than the deepest, the bottomless pit, an endless limitation. Endless limitation, right? So, just like the swan, right? Why is the swan the vehicle of Saraswati? I said to you, the swan can put its head in the most muddiest of water and has the ability to sip only the purest of water from that very muddy water that it is sitting on. That is discrimination or viveka. And Saraswati says, I will sit on you if you have the same sense and practice of discrimination like my Hamsa. That's why she is called Hamsa Vahini, Vidyadhayini, Shri Saraswati. Hamsa Vahini, Vidyadhayini. When you can be like my Hamsa, then I will give you the daya of Vidya. Superb. Isn't it? You cannot get something without giving something. And all they're asking you to do is give up all the bad things, bad thoughts, bad words, bad actions, bad behavior. Then I will give you all the goodness. But no, the desire that man has is, I want to enjoy this. At the same time, I want to become a jnani. Then I experience everything. And at one point, the experience will tell you, experience is your best master. It will tell you, enough. Now go this path. I say that can happen to anybody. Even the great Rishi Vishwamitraha, who gave us the Mahagayatri Mantra. If you look at his life cycle, how many times up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Totally ignored by the Rishi community. Says, you are a king. You will never become a Rishi. Prove them wrong. He became a Rishi. Then he fell down into this bottomless pit. Again, hundreds of years after that he became. And he rose. Until one point where the great Vashishta himself said, you verily have reached the stage of Brahma Rishi. It's the highest stage of Rishi. Right? So kings can become rishis, and rishis can also become kings. Prime example is Janaka, right? Sita Devi's father. I've spoken a lot as well about him when I did Ramayana. So when you are adept in doing action, karma, without attachment, then your mind becomes perfectly cleansed. And the results is you don't lose the efficacy and sink, you rise. But when you're caught to the attachment and to the fruits of your actions, you don't rise, but you sink. And who has that choice? You. It is in your hands. So don't blame everybody else. Just like when you're successful, you say, it is only because I made the effort I'm successful. You should have the same rigor to say it is because I made all the mistakes. This has happened. No, but when something goes wrong, we want to blame someone else for it, right? Anyway, 18 verses. Only the first two deal directly with the issue of liberation and its solution. The other 16 elaborate on the solution, and they purely serve as commentaries, nothing more than that, right? So the first thing is work without having any desire for the fruits of the action. Okay. Next is see the Supreme Self in all beings and see all beings in the Supreme Self. Simple. Isavasyam jagat sarvam yakkinchit jagatyam jagat. So see God in everything and see everything in God. So when you say Sai Ram, you are telling the person to whom you are saying it, I am like Ram. That means you must have the qualities of Rama, isn't it? When I did Ramayana, the first session, I remember talking to you about the 16 qualities of Rama. How many of those qualities do you have? Right? The other person also, no less. When he hears Sai Ram, he will say, Sai Ram, brother. Sai Ram, sister. Ram, Ram, sister. Ram, Ram, brother. Then when you turn your back and go, you say, see that fellow? Nonsense fellow, this fellow. I don't know what people like him are doing in this organization. Then the next fellow comes and says, Sai Ram, brother. Sai Ram. Some with action as well, yeah? This must accompany that Sai Ram. Who are you kidding? Are you kidding that fellow? The fellow to whom you are referring your nonsense? Or are you kidding yourself? See, on the one hand, you are telling people, I am Ram. And then by the very thought, by the very word, by the very action, you are disputing your very character. Turn it the other way. Say, I am trying to be like Ram. So let me see what are all the qualities of Ram. Even on the face of adversity, Rama always smiled. Even when his father told him to go to the jungle, he said, anytime, whatever you say, I will do. To the mother who wanted her son, Bharata, to reign the kingdom, to her, he went and got blessings first, not from his actual mother first. You know, if you look at if you read Ramayana, it is Kaikeyi who brought up Rama more than, his mother. So, ask yourself, when you say things, to what extent do you mean it? And when you get that realization of actually, I don't mean what I say, stop saying it. Until you come to a stage where you can actually say it. This is what the Ishavasya is saying. If you don't see the Isha in everything, and everything in that very Isha, then you are going to be continuously in the cycle of birth and death. It is in your power to cut. No one else can come and do this for you. No one else. Right? Cause and effect, karma. They react on the account of the basic stratum of the Atmic reality. Simple as that. Right? And the very word, Isha, carries this meaning. Very simple. Right? The Atma is all over the place, right? It is near, it is far, it is inside, it is outside. It is very still. It is moving endlessly. And he who knows this, knows that which makes it move, that which makes it near, that which makes it far, that which makes it inside, that which makes it outside, that is Isha. And when I learn and try and see, and yet we say God is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, and yet the very nature of man is to look left and right when he wants to do something wrong. Anybody watching? Oh, okay. How? Huh? How? You don't forget, you are always watching yourself. Forget about the others. You are watching yourself. You and the greater you, the true you inside of you is watching yourself. So don't just look left or right, top or bottom, look inside. You stop yourself. I'm telling you, right? But that is for those who have a little bit of intelligence and can use that buddhi, right? They will grasp the fact of, Atmic immanence. Atmic immanence. The ignorant will never be able to grasp because something bigger comes and clouds their vision. If your glasses are dirty, don't clean the windscreen of the car. Because no matter how clean the windscreen is, your glasses is still dirty. You will only see dirt. It's one of the stories I told you when I did Bhajagovinda. Right? This man was driving and it was raining. He told his after the rain, clean the windscreen. The wife cleaned it. And he said, you haven't cleaned it well enough. Clean it again. She cleaned it again. Third time, he still said, what are you doing? I tell you to clean it. Do a good job, woman. Then she took off his glasses, cleaned his glasses and put it back and say the problem was not with the windscreen. It was with your vision. And this is the same problem we have. Right? Those who are conscious of their very own vision will not be affected by what they see in the peripheral. But those who only see what is in the peripheral will be affected by their own vision. Right? This is the difference between the wise person and the unwise person. So the wise person will save himself from duality, whereas the unwise person will go deeper and deeper and deeper into karma kanda and have birth after birth after birth after birth. Punarjanmaha. And this is the great truth that the Isha Upanishad focuses on. Wise people, once they've tasted the sight of that vision, right, or the taste of that vision, they will not be agitated by the blows of fortune or by the enticements of the senses. Won't. They're temporary. And that's the thing about senses. You can never gratify them. Like, give them once, however much they want, and then that's it. Forever after that, they are not going to ask for the same thing. No. No. You give yourself the most tastiest of food. At that moment, you will say, wow, this is like Amrit, this food, you know. You eat and you feel so gratified. And then 2 days later, you crave for the same thing again. That is the senses. It will enslave you. Isha is saying, detach yourself, liberate yourself from the slavery of the senses. Because the slavery of the senses take you away from the path of Dharma and push you into Adharma. Because in Adharma is where the needs and urges of the body comes first. Instead, go on the path of Dharma and look for Swayam Prakashaha. Look for the light, the self-illuminating light. So that you can see, in that light, you can see your Jiva Rupa. Right? And for this, you need something called Jnana Nishta, divine sight. If you're lucky, God will give you that. Just like Krishna gave Arjuna. Just like Krishna gave Bhishma. Just like Krishna gave Dhritarashtra. Because he wanted to show them. Spiritual wisdom is not easy. You need to have the right eyesight. You need to have the right mindset. You need to have the right sense control. No craving. Right? No craving. And I tell you, after a while, you get used to it. You know? After a while, you get used to it. So it becomes easier. Like, you know, my own experience is that I shared with you when I was doing that 16-day prayers. I was only eating one meal, you know, just a small bowl of rice with some very plain natural yogurt. That's it. First day it was difficult because, you know, you've had, like, before that you eat when you're hungry. This one you completely don't eat, and you only eat one, and you're not expecting others to cook for you. Cook it yourself. That is spiritual thing, right? And it teaches you independence. But second day it became a bit easier. Third, fourth day, it was nothing already. And after the 16 days, you're thinking, why am I wasting my time going to eat all this? You know, I want certain things for breakfast, certain things for lunch, certain things for dinner. And the best part is we will drive to certain places to eat only that kind of specific or exclusive food. And then drive back all the way home and then think 2 days later, I will come again. This goes round and round, right? This is the nishtaha, the state of the mind, right? You can have the nishtaha can either fall into the jnana nishta or karma nishta. Who decides that? You decide that. No one else can, right? So that is why the entire 18 verses of the Isha Upanishad talks about how you can realize the Brahman, the Atman, the self, the true self. That is why Shankara said none of the mantras in this can be used for worship. It is meant for your realization. It is meant to give you vairagya, or sense of determination through discrimination using conviction. Then you can, and such an attitude of discrimination is the gateway. It is the gateway to acquiring spiritual wisdom. Okay? And once you get spiritual wisdom, you are actually, everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, you will think on the basis of vidya against avidya. Knowledge against ignorance. Right? So it teaches you lessons. It teaches you, the more you go into this sense-based pleasure, you are not doing your body any favor. Right? But instead, if you control, right? you control your mind and engage in things that will only do good for your body, your mind, and your soul, then, you are moving away from the attachment of raga and dvesha. And I said this to you when I was doing Bhagavad Gita. If you look at chapter 2, very beautiful saying. Raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishaya nindriyaischaran atma vaishyed vide atma prasadham adhigacchati. Raga dvesha viyuktaistu Vishayan Indrayascharan Atma Vashyed Videyatma Prasadham Adhigacchati. One whose mind and senses are under control is devoid of any sort of attraction or revulsion. He moves around objects and gains the state of tranquility. He who has gained that tranquility, all his sorrows are destroyed. Raga dvesha viyuktashtu vishayan indrayascharan. The indrayas are your pancha indriyas, your senses, right? One who moves away and controls the mind, controls what happens to his body. Finish. His mind is joyful, that stage. And intellect. When the mind is joined, it attracts wisdom. When the mind is downtrodden, it attracts avisdom, avidya. Right? What did Swami Vivekananda say? Again, I've referred to this several times, right? He says, in the ocean of samsara, desires are like the crocodile. Kill them as soon as they arise on the surface. Kill, rise, kill, rise, kill. And he's the one who said, desire, D-E-S-I-R-E, desire your desires. Then you will see how you wonderfully climb up the ladder to spiritual liberation. Right? It is Atma Tattva. So Isha Upanishad is basically giving you a lesson in Atma Tattva. Atma Tattva. Fruits of the knowledge of that Atmic principle, Atma Tattva. Right? And it will give you, Atma Tattva will give you Karma Mukti. No doubt about it. 100%. Right? Because renunciation, working without any desire for the fruits of your actions, actually leads you, this sort of renunciation leads you to self-realization. Right? Just like contemplative worship, everything comes together at the end. So renunciation must be there. Otherwise, continuously you'll be revolving in what we call, moving from Bhuloka to Pitruloka, Pitruloka to Bhuloka. This cycle will continue. But the idea is from Bhuloka to Devaloka, Devaloka to Brahmaloka. Finish. Stage by stage. That is what we call Atma Sakshatkara, where you are, becoming your true self. To escape the cycle of birth and death, Isha Upanishad says, contemplate on that cosmic divinity, which is in one and all in one. This is the vidya that you should get. If you don't think in this way, then you are going the path of avidya, akarma, amukti. You need this devata yajna, right? You need to do this. And I said to you, you can do as much as you want of karma kanda, but only until it gets you to the first staircase of jnana kanda. Then you're not involved in this karma kanda anymore. You're going into jnana kanda. You're going into the path of jnana kanda. Right? And the latest thing that I have done to move further in this path, right, and I'm sharing with you, is I have stopped going into my prayer room physically. Right? It's been 2 weeks since I went in. Because when I want to go, I just close my eyes. Because I found that no matter how much spiritually I am developing, I am still attached to going and doing the ritualistic aspects. So at some point, when you say, brother, can you come and do a Ganapati Homam, or can you come and do a Navagraha Homam, I will say no. because I've already gone beyond that. Now I'm doing because I'm not doing for myself, right? Through that, I educate a lot of people. I teach a lot of them how to do things and what they get when they do certain things in the right way. So it is also a form of service. But at some point, even that will stop. And this is the first stage, right? So what changes are you making in your own life to move from the materialistic stages of life to the spiritualistic stages of life? But change must come. Otherwise, you're doing the same thing, isn't it? I always say, we always say in the field of, professional development, right? In what we say here, CIPD, Chartered Institute of Professional Development, or Chartered Institute of Personal Development, doesn't matter, right? We always say if you keep doing the same things all the time, you will only experience the same results. Change the way you operate, some things will change. Completely change the way you operate, completely the results will change. Changing the modus operandi requires the change in thoughts, requires change in words and change in actions. So what are the primary lessons of Isha Upanishad? Number one, decide whether you want to go after karma kanda or jnana kanda, right? Material knowledge or possessions or wisdom of the afterlife. And this is where one of my favorite sayings of Shankara comes. And this is also, a point of reference by Swami Chinmayananda. He always refers to this. As I said, it's one of my favorite ones, where Shankara says, hoodwinked by desires, drunk with passion, the tottering fool wanders away from the main road of life into the thorny bushes where he lies lacerated and bleeding, and soon fatigued, he tumbles down into the bottomless pit of death. This is the universal folly of man. Chinmayananda says, the universal folly of man, Shankaracharya said, is that the fool that man is, Muda, winged by desires, drunk with passions. This tottering Muda, this fool wanders away from the main road into the thorny bushes, and there he lies lacerated, bleeding, and soon he tumbles into the pit, bottomless pit of death. Beautiful. Beautiful. Jahihi danagama trishnam, guru sat buddhim manasivi trishnam, yalla basheri jakarmo bhatam, vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Use your thoughts, your chitta, for the right reasons. Muda, jahihi, move away. Danagama trishnam, from the thirst of the sensual attractions. Swami always says, do you want to be rich in wealth or rich in character? End of education is character. So all this education you've been getting, right? Since 2020, thanks to pandemic, that we've had the fortune, the good fortune and the grace of God to do everything that we have done. All this, has it made you richer in wealth, or have you gained a little bit of richness in your character? Remember last week when I spoke to you about Katha Upanishad, I said the Creator made man's sense organs in order to turn outward and then filter and then turn back inward. That is the purpose of life. Katha Upanishad says that. But how many of us are doing that? Mahatma Gandhi once said, if all the Upanishads are lost in the world, if all the Upanishads and scriptures happen to be reduced to ashes, and if only one verse from the Isha Upanishad survives, then the Hindu Dharma will live forever. Now, I said Hindu Dharma, and I purposely said Hindu Dharma because those people who are thinking Hindus, you're mistaken. Hindu Dharma means Sanatana Dharma, eternal righteousness, that which is always right. Nothing to do with whether you're a Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, Sikh. Okay? The word Hindu comes from two root Sanskrit words, Himsa, Dhuram. Himsa is violence, Dhuram is far. So one who is truly at a distance from violence, violence in what? Violence in thoughts, violence in words, violence in actions. That person is a Hindu. That can be a Sikh. That can be a Chinese fellow. That can be a European. That can be, an African. End of education is character. But the word Hindu has been completely religionized. Hindu does not mean you are, an Indian. You are a Hindu when you recognize Isha Vasyam Vidam Sarvam Jagat Kinchidam Yak. Then yes, then you're a Hindu. If you live the philosophy of life and your life itself becomes the philosophy, then yes, you are truly living what the Isha Upanishad is coming. Right? So there are 7 things that the Isha Upanishad gives you, right? As a conclusion, I can tell you the first 3 things is the first gunas, the 3 gunas. Rajasic, Tamasic, Sattvic. Everything is in your hands. From Rajasic, Tamasic to Sattvic. Asat Thoma Satgamaya, Tamas Thoma Jodit Gamaya, Mrityorma Mardam Gamaya. Right? 3. 4th one is the truth. The truth, Sathya. That is, the true self is there, always there within me. But I can't see it as long as I'm focusing on my external self. Right? That's number 4. The 3 gunas. 4th one is the truth. 5th one is, the path of bhakti will lead you to purification only if you have withdrawal of the senses. The path of bhakti. Brother, I've been doing this puja for 30 over years. I've been doing this abhishekam every Tuesday and Friday, and I follow the Paurnami Vrat, I follow the Amavasya Vrat, I follow this Vrat, that Vrat. Path of bhakti without control or withdrawal from the senses will not give you any purification. This is the 5th thing that it says. Because without the 5th thing, the 6th thing is the awakening of the immortal state of realization will not come without the 5th. And of course, if you don't have the 6th one, you will not get the 7th one, which is becoming one with the Brahman. So how beautifully you see it, it sort of lends itself from one stage to another stage. 3 gunas will take you to the truth. The truth will say the path of bhakti without withdrawal of senses cannot lead you to purification. And it says without purification, you cannot awaken your immortal state. Without awakening your immortal state, you cannot reach and merge with that Brahman. The 7 waves of thought, if you like, as a result of the Isha Upanishad. But it's difficult for man because his thinking is so conditioned. The thinking, the behavior, the thought, the word, the action is so conditioned that it's difficult to break away from this. There must be a breakaway point. Otherwise, you're going to continue experiencing the same thing because you're doing nothing different. Doing the same thing, If you remember the conditioning of the mind, I told you the elephant and the rope story when I did something, last year. I did so many things. Man was passing by some elephants. They were tied. The elephant's leg was tied to a pole by a mere rope. Now, the elephant is a mighty animal, right? Just one small shrug. Not only the rope will come off, the entire pillar or post or whatever it's tied to, that will also go to pieces, right? But the elephants never broke away from that because their feet was tight and the man could not understand. There was no chains, there's no cages, only a small rope that is tied to their leg, to the post or the pillar. And to the man, it was rather obvious that at any time, these elephants could break free from the bonds. But for some reason, they did not. So he was looking for the trainer, And he saw that fellow there. And he asked him, how is it that these great big animals just wait there, with a little rope tied from with their leg to their leg and to the pillar. And the trainer said, because since young, I have done this with them, so they are conditioned to believe that this means they are not free to move. And that conditioning is what affects their inability to break away. The man was amazed. He said, well, such, if you stand in front of an elephant, you can appreciate the gregarity of the animal, right? And he realized conditioning. We become so conditioned in our thinking, and thinking determines, directs, and dictates the way we live, right? The elephant should have the realization that I am more mightier than that little rope that is tying me to that pillar or post. One pull, that's it, I am free. Oh man, how long are you going to be tied to this rope like the mighty elephant? Oh, when are you going to stop? You have to realize that the Parabrahman is no different from me. The Jivatma and the Paramatma is the same, right? Turn. That is why you go to any temple, you will see the Vahanas are always facing. Why one of Shiva's name is Pashupati? Pashu means, the cow, right? The cow always is looking at the Pati, the father. So the Pashu is Jiva, the Pati is Parabrahma. The Jivatma must always look towards the Parabrahma, Paramatma. Then only that relationship will come, right? And I also told you the story about Shankara up in mountain, Kailash. And, his path was blocked. And he was given the realization by Lord Shiva. I mean, that Chandala was Lord Shiva, none other than Lord Shiva. And he said, he came up with this Nirvana Shatakam at that point in time. Mano buddhi ahankara chittani namam nachastrotta jihve nachakrana netre nacho vyama bhumi na tejo na vayuhu chithananda rupam shivoham shivoham shivoham. I am not the mind, Mano, I am not the buddhi, intellect. I am not ahankara, ego, nor am I the chitta, the memory. Nacha strot of jihve, nacho graha netre. I am not the ears, the skin, the nose, the eyes. Nacho vyama bhumi, na tejo, na vayu. I am not the space, I am not the earth, I am not the fire, water, or wind. I am that ultimate Shivoham, Chitananda Rupam, Shivoham, Shivoham. Ishavasyam Jagat Sarvam Yat Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat. I am that eternal universe. That is Ishavasya Upanishad. Anyada Sharanam Nasti Tumeva Sharanam Mamaha Tasmat Karunya Bhavena Raksha Raksha Saishvara. Om Tat Sat. Next week we go to Prashna Upanishad.